Good morning, everyone. This is Chaitali Bagh from the European Bureau of Aviation and Defense Universe, based out of Cyprus. Today, we have with us Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, a veteran who has been the cynosure of all eyes, first as a para commando of the world's best army, second as a man who led the Indian Army's Infantry Corps, third, as a DGMO who walked across the Wagah border to shake hands with his Pakistani counterpart after 14 years of no DGMO meet, and fourth, as a director of CENJOS, a think tank for joint warfare studies. My list is endless, for he is a prolific writer, a forthright analyst, a TEDx speaker, and a die-hard Fauci. Sir, we welcome you to ADU's chat box. I now request Editor Sangeeta Saxena to steer the discussion ahead.
Thank you very much, Chetali. Sir, it's wonderful to have you here at the show with us. This is actually one of those great moments when we celebrate the Infantry Day, and who better than the DG Infantry himself, a former one, of course, and then the DG Infantry who went on to become the DGMO. So it's best for an audience to understand how the two major things, one running the infantry of the country and one running the military operations of the country. So welcome to our show. And we'd like to start with our first question for the day, which is, what is the status quo of the infantry today?
Thank you very much, Aviation and Defense Universe. Thank you, Chetali, for the introduction. Thank you, Ms. Zainab, giving the opportunity, honored indeed. I'm a simple soldier, and that's what it is, nothing more than that. And the honor you've given me is actually due to the men who served alongside me, who supported me, and at times suffered me also. Thank you very much. The challenges for the infantry, I think, are growing by the day. The future warfare, though technology becomes a major part of it, but I think infantry challenges, especially in the Indian context, are one too many. We have the infantry, which protects our continental defense, which protects our national security and territorial integrity, which is non-negotiable, our territorial integrity. India, unfortunately, has the longest unsettled borders. We have the 488 kilometer long line of actual control, the borders with China. We also have a actual ground position line in Siachen, Malaysia, 126 kilometers. Another 740 kilometers plus of the line of control with Pakistan. So these are actually unsettled borders, and the infantry is deployed all along the borders. And especially since last year, April, May, China's aggressive behavior along the LEC has changed the very dynamics of the infantry deployment and the challenges. So our challenges are in the complete spectrum, full spectrum of conflict, actually. Starting with the low intensity conflict in Jammu and Kashmir and the northeastern states, and going on right up to, say, short of the nuclear and the conventional domain. So infantry challenges have to be prepared for that. And moreover, with the deployment of the LEC, the challenges have multiplied, as I said earlier. And we also are now looking at non-traditional security challenges because of pan-India deployment. These are the new challenges, and the infantry will be the first responders because of the pan-India deployment. The HADR comes into being. We just saw what happened with Uttarakhand or Kerala yesterday. So there are challenges, one too many. And we are also, the infantry is under constant threat. Everyone says the infantry is too big. So I don't really understand that, because from a company commander to a corps commander, or every month we sign a certificate saying that our territorial integrity is intact and there's been no intrusions whatsoever. And if we have to do that, we have to observe every inch of our area of responsibility. We cannot not just say that, okay, technology will do it. Technology doesn't function in high altitude most of the time. So I think the biggest challenge for the infantry is now to not only in combat conditions, which they are, it is a no longer no war, no peace. It is mostly never-ending war and no peace. But when they come to the peace stations, the retrain and the reorient part of it becomes another challenge.
Right, sir. That was wonderful, sir. Actually, it was so good to know that infantry has challenges. We always felt that, the challenges were there, but were being met. Now, I'm sure that to meet these challenges, you have the best farms, the best of equipment, the best of everything. But then I'm sure there's a wish list which is still there for infantry. So what would that wish list be?
Unfortunately, we call it a wish list. I think it is not a wish list. We look at the infantry is world over known as the PBI, the poor grade infantry, and that is what the infantry and the army soldiers also, I think, quite similar. So what we need is the what I call the essential wherewithal to function effectively and minimize losses. These two things are very important. Missions are critical, definitely, but the cost of the mission also have to be minimized. So what we need is about not very many things, just about 4 or 5 basic things, and one is we need enhanced recce and surveillance capability. Because whether the strategic intelligence, the operational intelligence may come from anyone else, but the tactical intelligence will have to be, collated and by the infantrymen. So who or the troops in contact. So the reconnaissance and surveillance equipment, and then we need better weaponry, basically lighter, more accurate weaponry, and more functional weaponry in our context. There is always a conflict between getting 7.62 ammunition and 5.56 ammunition, because 5.56 is for conflicts and 7.62 is required for your counter-terrorism operations. Then we need body protection, body armor is very important, and battlefield mobility, I think, is something which we need. And for that, it is not only the battlefield mobility in terms of all-terrain vehicles and we are talking of other equipment, but also the equipping the infantryman head to heel, as I call it. He has to equip from head to heel with lightweight, easy to wear, easy to carry, easy to move. Because infantryman has to be agile. Every soldier has to be agile. He has to be agile. He has to be flexible. He has to be, very nimble on his feet. I can't be making, when I'm patrolling or flying in ambush, my equipment can't be making any noise because that will give it away. So these are the 4 or 5 things I think which is required. And I will not go into the details of what it is, because if we translate the requirement, we'll come to these 5 things, will come to something. Basically, reduce the burden on the infantryman. Infantryman walks about 25 to 30 kgs on his back. He's self-reliant. Atmanirbhar is a good word now, but one of the basic characteristics of infantry, the first characteristic of infantry we are taught in the bios course was self-reliance or Atmanirbhar. So it has always been Atmanirbhar. So this is not a wish list. This is something essential for an infantryman to function effectively, function at the tactical level, at the operational level, and minimize losses.
And when you talk about having less weight on the soldier, do you mean that you need a better technology for carrying baggage, the better technology for lightweight equipment and arms, which is not there at the moment with the Indian Army?
Yes, I think definitely our web equipment, our carrying equipment, our rucksacks, they can be improved. We need better equipment. The body, it can distribute the body in a better manner. It is the attrition over the years which is caused by this carrying such a heavy equipment. Even helmets are heavy, our bulletproof jackets are heavy. We need lighter weight weaponry, our ammunition, our combat loads. So all these things are really heavy. So they need to be better, and there's a focus to it. There's a focus. So fortunately, the Ordnance Factory Board is now revamped and converted to 7 PSUs. I hope they're more responsive now, because quality control in the OFP was a major issue, and the time and cost overruns these are 2 major issues actually: quality control of the equipment and time and cost overruns, because of accountability was not there. So things are changing for the good. Our services are now putting the foot down, and they want better things. The only thing is that I think the DGQA also needs to be put under the service headquarters, so that the quality control is there. I do feel that technology has to be there, and the DRDO should look at the technology for the soldier, and they're doing it. It's not that they're not doing it. There are changes in the systems, and we will see good equipment coming in. We'll see better equipment coming in, whether we get the equipment from indigenous equipment or equipment from abroad. But we are looking at good equipment.
Right. Sir, the foot soldier, has it become electronic warfare savvy?
Yes, definitely. You'll find that this net-centric warfare. We have to fight a war in informationalized in the domain. And today, soldiers all over, infantry, armor, engineers, artillery, they have to function in a high-tech environment. And I find our soldiers are very adaptable and very adept at technologies. When we talk technology, it is not high-end technology we're talking about. It is day-to-day use technologies actually. And we have our soldiers can really they absorb technology and they exploit technology in a very big way. Most of us don't understand that, but they absorb such good technologies, and you find them. I remember when the Milans came in, when I was a young officer, we had the Milans and the Maronite sites, and they were highly complicated technology in those days, and our soldiers really took to it. So I find that we should trust our soldiers. They need a little time to train, and they absorb it. They really exploit technologies in a way we can't really imagine. The Indian Army, not the infantry, the Indian Army is known to function with the wherewithal and military hardware from Russia or Soviet origin, from the USA, Israel, France, the UK, even UAE, and you name it. And when it comes to it, we really exploit it. I don't know how we do it, but we really exploit it from various countries. So that is something very unique about the Indian Army and the Indian soldier.
Right. Sir, at the moment we talked of the soldier level. Now, what I wanted to understand from you is, since you have been at a level where, management of the operations is a very major task, and at all levels, at the regiment, at the battalion, all levels. So I just wanted to understand that, has the Indian infantry become, digital? Is it planning? Is it war gaming, in a different way? Like, earlier you had those, even the exercises, were actually factual. But at the moment, has there been a change in the actual operation level?
Yes, there has been a change. We established wargaming centers, which are in the digital mode, and these wargaming centers are training our junior leaders up to section commander, platoon commander, company commanders, and the commanding officers. They go to the wargaming centers which are located wherever they're located, and there they have real-time wargaming on the digital mode. So we are making use of simulation methods, wargaming methods, and all. So these are being done. But I think the question is: are we doing enough, or we need to improve? Both. We have to do more and more of it, and we need more at the level which is what do I say? At every level we need it, and
Yeah.
it has to be done more often. Right now it's only being done for the commanders or the military leaders at all levels. So that is something which we need to do. It is being done, but we need to take off from it.
Right. So basically, when we talk of operations, so what is the status of the infantry at the moment with deployments everywhere, peace areas as well as the LAC and the LOC? So, what is the status at the moment? Is the soldier tired? Is there too much of workload? Is there no division? Are conditions very tough? Are we giving them enough in the special areas so that they remain absolutely satisfied with what they've got, and then move ahead with a zeal and a vigor which is rejuvenating?
What has really changed is that the deployment of the infantry is going to increase. It has already increased, and it's going to increase some more, given our situation along the line of actual control. The LC has been fully manned as was in the earlier. That is the counter infiltration grid and the LC. We also have equal manning in the counter-terrorism grid. So the LAC additional, which has come deployment, which has come about. So that is going to impact the field peace profile of the infantry units and the infantry soldier. So that is where I think challenges for the military leadership will be there. We cannot expect more. And how do we come about it is a major issue. The infantry functions on the Naam Namak Nishan of the unit, and the regiment is which is not only infantry, everyone does that. That's very important. But how long can you really extend that is a question. So we'll have to look at it. In this, I think the most impacted or affected arms would be the infantry and the engineers, the sappers actually, because we always short of sappers, and followed by the artillery. Others, I don't think are going to be affected so much. We have to look at ways and means to keep them motivated. And how do you motivate? What the pride? It's the pride that motivates them. And I think the pride also has a little bit of elitism. I'm a paratrooper, the parachute regiment, so we all have a chip on our shoulder. But that chip on the shoulder can take you so much and go longer. So I feel we need a 3P philosophy for the infantry soldier. And that 3P is basically what the pride is, comes out of 3Ps. That is the promotions, the postings, and the pay. So there's nothing wrong. I think there's time to have some infantry pay. I know there's MSP, but that is common to everyone. So the infantry is going to get deployed at about 500 meters or 4,800 meters on average height, and all along the LEC, then all along in Ladakh areas along the LC and beyond. So I think we need to give them a little extra so that they know that they are being cared for. It is more of a sort of signaling to them that we care for you and you're special.
I know, so long back, I think about 11 years back, I was interviewing you, you were the DG Infantry. And I remember you said that the best soldier in the world cannot have second best arms and equipment. So, sir, are we somewhere nearer to having the best arms and equipment?
Honestly, that is something which is a work in progress, which is I'm not looking at I don't say we want a dream weapon. I'm not looking at dream weapon, but I want effective weapon. Effective means really effective or something. If you talk to the men, they, basically a small arms assault rifle is an appendage of my. It's an appendage of it's my appendage actually. It is not a weapon. I sleep with it. I eat with it. I move with it. I operate with it. I breathe with it. So it is an appendage of my body, and something which I don't. If all my arms are not or appendage is not functioning well, I don't trust them in the way I should. And we still are looking at the SARS weapon systems, which have outlived their utility and life both. Replacements are coming, but I think we need to. It's a little slow and dirty process. We need more and more, and we need it. What do you say? As of yesterday, that's a dialogue, but it's a fact that we need as of yesterday. So, thank you for bringing this out. I have to be very frank and upfront on this. Not being diplomatic, I'm a soldier. I shoot straight. We need better weapons.
Right, sir. I think that was absolutely very well and very forthright. And we can only keep making our pleas through our writings that yes, our soldiers need the best. Sir, now when we move ahead, we're talking about their expanded area of work. Do you think there is a real new concept? I think it's a media generated concept, but there is a concept the concept that LAC has got LOCization done. What does that mean, sir?
I don't subscribe to it, actually, honestly. These are totally different dynamics. These are different borders. They're different. Even the relationship between the nations are different. India and China still continue, despite what has happened in LAC or Galwan. We still continue to trade. We still continue to have mutual, concerns, shared interests in many spheres. We are part of the same multilateral organizations, whether it is SCO, BRICS, and RIC, and others. So I don't think that even at the tactical operational level, LOC is a holders keepers concept. LAC is defined. It is basically defined from place A to place B to place C. LAC, the tasks are different. LAC, we also have an inbuilt task of counter infiltration. Right. The Pakistan Army has got a task of infiltrating terrorists into our area. No, this is not along the LAC. LAC is a question of domination, and LAC is a question of your your claim lines. So you have to dominate your claim lines. So that is what the LAC is all about. It is not about more than domination. And if you look at even last year, we were talking LAC and 13th round and failed and all that. But there's been no escalation in LAC. Even after Galwan, there's been no other escalation whatsoever. Whereas the LC things are very dynamic, things are totally different. Despite a ceasefire, you find infiltration still taking place, and which will take place. The counter-infiltration grid has not changed. LC would be managed, I think, in a based on still the treaties may have they've been violated once, fine. But still, we have the treaties in place, the four basic treaties of 93, 96, 2005, and
Yeah.
2013. However, the additional deployment along the LAC, which is quite sensitive, that has to be managed in a different way. The operation philosophy is no blinking, no brinkmanship along the LAC. And on the LOC, it is domination, it is moral ascendancy, it is defense works, it's sanctity of the LC, and counter-infiltration. So I don't see any, other than increased, enhanced deployment in a border management posture or border defense posture now along the LAC. There is no commonality between the LC and LAC. I think it will be incorrect for us to take the LOC to the LAC or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. And sir, now that we have got volatile, turbulent waters, and at the moment we have infantry to a certain level there. Do you think it requires more battalions? Do you think it requires more? You have a mountain corps which you had said. So do you think it requires more, or are we sufficient? Absolutely.
See, sufficient is a later word. Will never be sufficient. A mountain, as they say, feet of troops. Every height has a higher height to defend or to occupy. So, what we'll have to see is if our aim is to ensure peace and tranquility from a position of relative strength, then we have to make sure that we have the capabilities, we have a relative strength advantage in certain places. It can't be all over. And we should look at reserves. The Mountain Strike Corps, it was sanctioned in July of 2013. It is not a strike corps actually. It is actually strike corps is a misnomer. It is part of accretion forces. It
Yeah.
is 90,274 men. It is not a strike. Strike corps is about 50,000 men. 90,274 men. It is also 67,000 crores. If it had come up, it was come up over 8 years. By 2021, it was totally operationalized. But now it is operationalized, the strike was operationalized, and now we have the adequate reserves. So when we talk of China, we look at a war prevention strategy, and war prevention strategy comes from a position of relative strength. China is 5.5 times our comprehensive national power. I'm not saying we compete with them, but negotiate with them from a position of relative strength. That is where the mortar striker comes in. We need roads, which is coming up now, the infrastructure, which was lacking for a lot of time. We need reserves to preempt the Chinese from occupying certain areas. And if they occupy, we have QPQ options, reactive options. And we need, most of all, what we need is the radars and the surveillance capabilities. So we need the three R's: radars, roads, and reserves. Permanent deployment is not the answer. We have a minimum deployment, and then we have our battlefield mobility with our quick reaction forces who can react before the Chinese, either reactive or preemptive both. So that sort of a thing should be the philosophy of manning the LAC.
Right, sir. And in continuation to this, do you feel we are at par with what the PLA has across the LC, across the LAC?
I think we're an advantage. We have a major advantage along the LAC as far as the continental defense is concerned. We have had our troops deployed for decades now. So they have the battle experience, they're battle hardened, they're combat rich. We know all about hybrid warfare. Our deployment is already existing. So we just have to change a little bit of our tactics and operational philosophy, and then we are up to it. Whereas in China, they had very little deployment. They have their sort of camps which are located away from the LAC, and it's a plateau, and they have invested exceedingly well in state-of-the-art infrastructure and right into the last mile connectivity. So they used to come in their own vehicles, they would patrol, and they would go back, basically up to the claim lines, as they call it. So we have, I think, now woken up to the infrastructure development in a big way, and we are stronger in many ways. Along the LSE, we are stronger. But then that is only one part of it. We'll have to look at the overall combat power, combat ratios, which is a different subject altogether. But along the LSE, I think we are stronger at present, and we will continue to have this advantage. Uh, we should remember that the PLA not only lacks experience, they have conscripts, and they have conscript 40% conscripts, and the conscripts are in the frontline units. They're not in, they're not in the engineers, they're not in the Air Force and the Navy, they're in frontline units. So 20% turnover is taking place every year. So the effective time of the LS is 9 months. So he's looking over his shoulders, 20% of the unit look over his shoulders to get back to civil life, educate himself, go to his family, have better avenues open after conscription. So there's a major difference. And in the end, it is the man that counts. The machine and the weapon is only one part of it. It's the man that counts. And that is where our advantage along the LSE is there with China.
Right. And Sid, does it also mean that, where we feel and they feel we need more border meeting points, we need more meetings? You were DGMO. Now, DGMO, we know very well that China doesn't have a concept of a DGMO. And but when you were there, and this is when I'm talking of 2014, I believe there was some talk about you meeting the general from there who was in operations and planning, and I believe Indian government invited him, and you had a one-on-one with him, which was some sort of a DGMO level talk. So has that got ahead, and have you thought of more things happening, at the LAC, so that we get, that bond has to be developed, confidence building measures are there, but then, we know very well that at times they don't work. So are we planning something? What do we do? There has to be some diplomatic way merged with military ways to manage that.
The 2013 October, we signed the Border Defense Cooperation Agreement when Mr. Manmohan Singh visited Beijing.
Yes.
And one of the things in that was to have a hotline between the DGMOs, between the PLA DGMO and equivalent, whatever the DGMO part of it. Because they have a different system. There was CMC system and theater command system. And that time it was not theater command, it was military regions that time. So now they have theater command. So they had this thing which is already in the pipeline, and they wanted to thereafter go from the BDCA, which is the Border Defense Agreement, to a code of conduct, which they have with other nations. China shares land border with 14 nations. India is only one of the 14 nations. And but we could not go ahead with it because we could not agree to a common sort of appointment, and so there were certain issues, and thereafter it died down in natural death. Hopefully, I think we should go ahead with, because there's an advantage in a direct talk between the military to military at the DGMO level. You talked about border person meeting points. There were 4, now there are 6. One was in Kibutu in the eastern sector, and one in the DBO sector. We had a border person meeting points. We had also proposed and agreed to offer non-contact games at the tactical level. Whether let Nathala people come across, we play volleyball or something like that. So that was also there. So things were, CBMs were moving in very well until, of course, China decided to take advantage of the pandemic and demonstrate aggressive behavior along the LAC. I think we need to get back to the CBMs. We have to have CBMs. So China understands that India has stood its ground. The strategic resolve displayed by India has risen the cost for China. India is not a pushover, which China may have, I suppose, not carried out the right appreciation. Because India really stood its ground with the military deployment or equitable emotional deployment, raising the cost for China, and we have stood up. So China may have to look at it again, and at the military level, we do continue to talk. 13 rounds of talk have happened already. At the diplomatic level, we still have the WFCC functional, the NSA level talks are on. At the political level, also the Ministry of Defense, defense ministers, and the foreign ministers have been meeting each other. So I think the issue is to resolve it talks, and like you rightly said, the CBMs need a review and they need to be reinforced. We are two big nations, nuclear armed nations, 1/3 of humanity. We'll have to live together. and we have to understand each other's sensitivities and live together. I do feel that it's not in the interest of China to go to war with India, and neither would India like to ever go to war with China. So, but it should not be driven to a war. And when you do war avoidance, war prevention, it is for position relative strength. So you have to build capabilities. That's going to cost us. But we have the capability, and we are building on the capabilities, enhancing the capacities, and China understands that. So what I say is, if I may take a minute more, we need a 3D strategy with China. Defend along the line of actual control, dominate the seas of the Indian Ocean region, and deter China's aggressiveness by binding to balance with other nations where we have convergence and conflicts of interests.
So, sir, now this, of course, is one point. And I think with China, you're very right. It's always, going to be a win-win situation for both of us if we try and make it win-win. What happens to our, born out of genesis of hatred neighbor? We have always, I always feel, that Pakistan normally does not listen to, it doesn't learn its lessons well. So what do we do at the LOC? It's been trying everything, last 10 days have been bad for us. So, I mean, what do we do? How do we make them, as a DGA, as a former DGMO, what would you have done in such a situation?
Now, Pakistan has been strategically very smart. With Afghanistan, all roads to Kabul lead via Rawalpindi, not Islamabad. The difference with Rawalpindi and Islamabad. So it was what we got in Afghanistan is going to embolden the terrorist organizations. So it's going to inspire them more and more, and that is, I think, the effect of that emboldenment is what we're seeing along the what's happening in Jammu and Kashmir, along the line of control in Punch, and of course north of East Punjab also we had this encounter. So, but I don't think this is Afghanis doing it anymore right now. This is basically Pakistan trying to wake up the issue pre-winters. It normally happens in the month of October. The season, the festival season is on. We've had some bad luck also. So luck is a very major factor because the terrorists have to get lucky only once. And they've changed their tactics. They've been getting very desperate. They're soft targets, pistols. Very, very, very difficult as a security analyst to give out something which needs to be done for that. But again, and going back to the major issue, what needs to be done in Pakistan, a lot is being done. I would now, at the cost of repetition, I would give out the strategy for Pakistan should be the 3P strategy. You have to have a proactive strategy with Pakistan. It has to be preemptive. Before they come in, you can get them out. And it has to be punitive. You should understand that if there's an infiltration has taken place on X area, obviously it takes place with the help, with the connivance, and with the support of the Pakistani army posts across. That post has to be punished. And it works. Let me say that openly, it works. Of course, they will also retaliate because the LC is banned and mined and there's a ceasefire on. But we'll have to be selective about it. Pakistan can't get away with it just because something has happened and we have a ceasefire on. Ceasefire is good for India. There's no doubt about it. But it's better for Pakistan in many ways. And so we'll have to make sure that we have a proactive, a punitive, and a preemptive strategy with Pakistan. And Pakistan should know that this is our intent. The strategy signal have already gone out with surgical strikes and with the strikes, precision air and Jabatov. And we'll have to continue with it. And Pakistan has to understand that they cannot get away with it. Internally, of course, we have certain fault lines in Jammu and Kashmir. We're already addressing them. We need economic development in Jammu and Kashmir. We need education. We need employment generation. We need empathy for the people. So we'll have to have a two-way strategy, one for the people of Kashmir and one for the Pakistanis who are always trying to take be the spokesperson who is people of Kashmir. So the silent majority in Kashmir does not like Pakistan at all. If you ask them what is Azadi you want, they don't understand the meaning of Azadi. They talk of Azadi without understanding the meaning of Azadi. I'm talking the silent majority. And the things have changed, and I think they'll change for the good. Something which has happened in the last couple of weeks, I think get corrected. We are at it. I'm sure the security forces are fully aware of what has happened and what needs to be done.
Right. And sir, we have been discussing with General Bhatia as DG Infantry, General Bhatia as DGMO. Now we want to switch a little to General Bhatia as the Colonel of the regiment, Colonel of the Parachute Regiment. So where do our airborne forces stand in the current sort of scenario? Do you think we require to have more of them? From what I feel, I always feel that the airborne forces need a lot of, I think they should have a wish list. So we'd like you to talk about it.
Airborne forces, the world over, a threatened being. They have a strategic mobility, they have operational mobility, they are trained, and what happens, the very threatened being of airborne forces, and the very use of airborne forces, especially in concert with special forces, which is again part of the same regiment, we, we've got to create decision dilemmas in the enemies. If there's an airborne operation, and so it creates not only decision dilemmas, it hits at the national level. It's a very big thing, and it's not about visibility. It's all about high-profile attacks. Let's say if there was an airborne drop anywhere, um, anywhere you see. Look at the chaos it will create in an adversary's mind. What to do next, and what is the aim, what is the intent, and it shows our resolve. So I think airborne forces are a good threatened being. We have two active adversaries, one a mischievous adversary in our west, and one now an aggressive adversary on our north. I do feel that we need airborne forces, and we need airborne forces for altitude warfare. I still recollect we had a airborne full tactical drop, the highest ever in the world in Moree Plains in 13 September 1988. I was part of it, and that was a jump at about 5,000 meters plus. So we have the capability, we have the ability, and that sort of a demonstrated ability is what creates decision dilemmas in the minds of our adversaries, and that is what is required. So we need more and more airborne forces now because the situation along the LAC, you may use them, may not use them, you may use them for just operational mobility or strategic mobility, shift forces. But the fact is, yes, airborne forces are more relevant today than they were yesterday, especially given our lift capabilities. We had the C-130s, we have the C-17s. We still continue to operate the ILs and the N-32s. We got the Chinook helicopters. So we have a lift capability both for tactical and operational level drops in high altitude and all our territories.
Okay. Sir, but when we talk about modernization and we talk about this theaterization, is that a good model to follow?
I think definitely this is time has come for theaterization. You see, Indian Armed Forces is the fourth largest in the world, the second largest army, the largest voluntary army. We have the fourth largest air force, exceedingly well trained for our professional air force. We have a blue water navy. Uh, we are combat hardened. But despite all that, we are being effective in all operations. Let's face it, let's give ourselves a pat. We are very critical of our own selves. And despite all that, I don't think India military is still a military power. We are a military force. To become a military power, we need theaterization. It has to be threat based and capability based, a mix of the two. We cannot follow either the US model or the China model. We have to evolve a model which suits our own, the Indian context and the Indian character. So, theaterization is a foregone conclusion. I think it is a must. And we should stop dragging our feet about it. We should discuss it positively and find the ways and means to make it effective, both cost effective and combat effective. What has happened to the pandemic is that we have competing threat at the national level. And with the pandemic, the armed forces will be asked to do more and more in less and less. How do we do more and more in less and less? We got to do cost optimization. We have to be future ready and we have to be present relevant. So there are many challenges. The transition is the problem. You see, most of the people whom I talk to, they said, "Sir, iska kya hoga?" No, we're looking back at our old things. So we have to have a transition management uh, phase. It has a planned phase of transition management with timelines, with cost, with defining the roles of various units and formations and commands. So that has to come into place because that if that is not understood properly and that is not done properly, we'll have to have a problem. But I think theaterization is taking off, and they're reluctant to change. It's a very normal. Resistance change is very, very normal. Nothing so great about it. But time has come. A good thing has come. We've been asking for it for the last 20 years. And now that it's come, we are very scared of it, actually. I would say we are apprehensive of the end
Yes.
result. But then, if nothing, we got to be brave and we got to trust ourselves that we can do it. We have to go in for theaterization. The
Right.
answer to it was we have to have the aerospace command, we need a maritime command, we need a theater against it. Actually, it is not a command, it's a theater. If we, when we stop commands, we go back to our original thinking, our mindsets are a command. So there are difference between a theater and a command.
Very true.
So a theater would have all components. The theater commander will have component commanders. He'll have Air Force, Navy, and Army component commander. Who will be the
Yeah.
advisors? The theater commander is not a one man wearing all hats, and he's not going to be deployed along the LAC himself and doing everything himself. No,
Very true. Very true.
he's got a chain of command. He's got experts advising him. I don't have to sail a ship to be a theater commander. There are people doing that. That's their job. My thing is at the strategic operational level to make sure our resources are optimized, all our resources are optimized, and make sure that we have peace and security, stability. We're not looking at only war fighting. No, war fighting comes the last part. Wars are the last. War is not an option. War is a last resort. We should not looking at just war, how the war fighting. War fighting will take place. It has to take place. But why should you come to war fighting alone? You have to look at war prevention. You have to look at waging wars where required. So that sort of a intent, strategic intent, you have to signal to your adversaries that look, I will do all that, and war fighting definitely will flow out of it. So that's my view.
It's been more than now 1.5 or nearly 2 years since we've got the final concept of a CDS in the country and a Department of Military Affairs. Now, so tell me, is there any change? Have these two things got a change into the actual functionings, actual plannings, actual management of the forces, or is it all wine in a new bottle?
No, I don't think so, because everything takes time. We are not only lethargic, we are large. So everything takes time. We look at headquarter ideas, which came out after the Kargil War and the Proper Minister's report, and which had also recommended CDS. So if a CDS has taken 19 years to be, designated, to be appointed, and we expect him to start doing everything within 19 days, I think that will be incorrect, or 19 months now. I think that will be incorrect. But to say that things have not changed, I will not agree. Things have changed for the good. You find more synergy between the armed forces. We need more synergy between the civil military relations, also have got better synergy. We have more decision making authority. Earlier, it was the authority was the Ministry of Defense or the Department of Defense, and the accountability was the service headquarters. Now there is certain bit of authority with the DMA, which is the uniformed person, headed by a uniformed man. So we are very, I expect results by the day. No, it is not a magic wand. What is happening? If you look at the LAC, look at the pandemic, the way we have reacted as one. So
Very true.
that would take effort. That would take some effort, and where does that effort come from? Otherwise, I'll give you a small example. When I was sorry saying the word I, we used to often meet the DG Air Operation and DGM, the DMO. I used to call them. Said, come and meet. Then once something happened, so I told them, I said, look, you are the DG Air Operations, you are the DG Naval Operations, I'm the DG Military Operation, not DG Army Operations. Okay, but that was a lighter vein. So today we are getting formal structures in place, formal systems in place. So wait for the structures to evolve, wait for the systems to start functioning. So we need to be a little patient, give time. It's something 68 nations in the world have a CDS. So if they have a CDS, there was some reason to it. The time has come. But to think that the magic wand, you appointed a CDS on the 1st of January 2020, and everything going to change thereafter, no. And everything should not change because we have to be present relevant also. So things are changing for the good. They are better effective. We got more authority. We have more accountability also in our way. And we have a single point of advice to the decision makers, and which is there. The DMA, I think, is another game changer. Earlier on, so look at the charter of the DMA. So many things have come to the DMA. So we just give it time, be a little patient. That's all I will request your viewers, and you'll find the changes for the good of the nation, for national security, and for the services.
Wonderful, sir. And no conversation with you can come to an end before we've asked you, how did it feel on the 24th of December, 2030, 14, 30,
Correct.
30, yes. How did it feel, sir?
It felt good. It was the need of the hour, the responsibility. See, this is the first time ever that the DGMO spoke. I do feel that in Pakistan, the military drives the India policy, or any policy for that matter, especially India policy. In our case, the military does not drive it. And rightly so, we should not drive it also. But within the political direction, I think the military could talk to the military, because military talks are more effective. So that was one change at that point in time. I was given the charter to go, and ceasefire had nearly broken down, almost broken, but we are having ceasefire abolition on a daily basis, which is not in my interest, like I said earlier. So I was told to go and see how we can sustain the ceasefire, which was the 2003 ceasefire, which was again, by the way, 2003 November ceasefire also was on the DGMO hotline. It may have been agreed, back channel, whatever you may call it, but the formal thing was agreed upon the DGMO hotline on 25th of November 2003. So when I went across, we had a very, the Pakistan DGMO, very fine officer, thorough professional gentleman. We should give credit to where it's due. And I think the talks were very candid, cordial, and constructive. And we had ceasefire, like this is being maintained, the ceasefire was maintained. I think we need to talk military to military within the directions of the political directions, but we can resolve quite a few issues. Even as a DGM on a hotline, we have resolved a number of issues. Maybe small, maybe big, but then small issues have, tactical issues have strategic implications. We have to understand that it's changing world. Something today, a small incident has strategic implications. The Pathankot had strategic implications. Right? The surgical strikes again, tactical, operational level, but it has strategic implications the world over. So I think we need to talk more often, and the military could be given the task of talking within the political directions given by the this thing should be continued. It could be periodic, or it could be as and when required.
Thank you very much, sir. It was just wonderful to have you over with us. And I think, we have a lot of questions we asked, and any conversation with you will have the end would be wanting more. So we'll leave it for the next session. We are nearer the Infantry Day, and sir, congratulations to the nation, and of course to you as an infantry man, and for a person who was DG Infantry. Looking forward to have, a lot of improvements in the infantry every year, so that whenever we talk to you nearer the Infantry Day, we have the response saying, oh, the last year has been wonderful. So with that, sir, we'll say goodbye to you. It was wonderful having you, and looking forward to meeting you again, sir.
Thank you very much. Really honored to be on this platform of the ADU. Thank you very much indeed, and wishing you all the very best. Jai Hind.
All right. Jai Hind, sir.